All right, today we're going to be talking about a really important concept in here. One of our 5 learning skills that we are focused on throughout the class is called scale analysis. So this is an introduction to the concept of scale, as well as sort of the different ways in which we're going to talk about scale throughout class. So scale shows up a lot in this class and shows up in a little bit confusing ways. So all of the ways in which you hear the word scale are pretty well related to each other. But it can be used in slightly different ways. So I'm going to go through each of those. I'm going to talk about when we use the term, what we mean by it, and kind of the differences in application. So first of all, scale can mean a specific measure that reflects the relationship of the Earth's size to actual size on Earth. So what that usually looks like is as a graphic or like a numerical expression, like you see here, 1 centimeter equals 1 kilometer, or as a ratio or representative fraction, so 1 to 100,000. So scale oftentimes is used to indicate specifically on the map what the numerical relationship between the map and the world is, or between the map and what's being shown is. All right, so very, very, very closely related to that, we have the concept of small scale versus large scale maps. So when we're zooming in and zooming out of what we actually want to look at, what are the cartographers or the geographers actually wanting to focus in on? So here we see on this map of the world, we see a graphic depiction of scale. This is a new map too. We got Eswatini on it. So that's exciting. Formerly known as Swaziland. So yeah, bottom left-hand corner, graphic scale. All right, and that's usually how it looks. Okay, so there are some other ways to show it. This map in particular, you can't really see it too well, but on the upper left-hand corner, we have the numerical expression of 1 to 35 million. And then you'll notice when we zoom in and look just at the state of Washington, we have a slightly different scale. So this is 1 to 2.72 million. So you might be noticing that the numbers change. So what do the numbers actually even mean? So this picture comes from your textbook on page 10, and there's lots of handy dandy stuff from page 10 as it relates to scale. But what you'll notice is that the more you zoom into an area, so actually the smaller an area of Earth is being shown, the larger the scale is. And the opposite of that is true. The larger area you're showing, so you'll notice the top picture shows all of Southeast Texas and Louisiana and has a scale of 1 to about 10 million. So that is called a small scale map. And as you get progressively more zoomed in, the maps are larger scale than the one above it. So why? That's a good question. Because when we're talking about scale, we are specifically, in this instance, talking about that mathematical relationship. And the fraction 1 over 10 million is actually smaller than the fraction 1 over 10,000, right? So that is the reasoning for why we call large scale maps large scale and why we call small scale maps small scale. So one more time, just to repeat the most important part of this, large scale maps depict smaller versions of the Earth's surface, so more zoomed in versions of the Earth's surface. So here, Minute Maid Park, where the Houston Astros play, and where they steal signs and cheat, versus the zoomed out Southeast Texas and Louisiana, which is a smaller scale depiction. Okay, and these aren't. This is kind of a good way. This is one of those things that I feel like you just got to kind of memorize because it's a little bit counterintuitive that smaller scale maps show larger depictions of the Earth's surface and vice versa. So kind of something to take special note of. All right. So we're past the more confusing stuff and on to the stuff that I think we'll use the most when you hear the word scale. So the first 2 ways in which we've talked about scale have been pretty related. The third use is what portion of the Earth is being shown in a map. So this is probably how I use the term scale the most. I say, what is the scale of this map? Basically, what are we showing? What portion of the Earth is being shown? what is the geographic focus of the map? What geographic area is the focus of the map? So is it showing the entire world, which we would use the term global, kind of at a global scale? Is it showing a world region like East Asia or Northern Africa? So kind of more than one country, but kind of a collection of countries shown by geographic region? Then we would use the term regional scale. Is it just showing one country? So we would use the term national scale. Gets a little tricky here, but I would use this term when you're looking at maps of individual US states or other like Canadian provinces, the term subnational, meaning that we are looking at a map that is below the national scale. And then the last term that I think is a good one is the term local or metropolitan, if it's showing us a city or if it's showing us a localized area. All right. So let's look at some maps and talk about them. So what is the map showing? That's the important question when we talk about the term scale. So we have this political map in the top left-hand corner, and that is at a global scale. That is showing us the entire world, right? So we would say that is at a global scale. This map would be at a regional scale because it's showing us not the entire world, but also not just one individual country. It's showing us all of North America. Map on the bottom left-hand corner, we would use the term national scale because it is showing us the entire country of the Philippines at a national scale. This one here of British Columbia would use the term subnational, or if you know about Canadian politics, which I'm sure you do, you could use the term provincial scale. And the last one is a metropolitan map of Dallas. So I would use the term local scale or metropolitan scale. So again, what's the focus of the map? Is it the entire world? Is it Dallas? And why is this map showing what it's showing? All right, so the last thing we are going to talk about is called scale of analysis. So previously, we've talked about scale and talked about three slightly different but pretty related versions of the way we use the word scale. The term scale of analysis is going to be a little bit different. So you see the word analysis in the title. So what we're looking at here specifically is what information, at what level is the information on the map being conveyed? So patterns and processes at different scales reveal variations in different interpretations of data. All right, so hopefully that makes sense, but just a second, it'll make more sense. Basically, some simple questions I have to help you understand scale of analysis are where do the differences in data occur on the map? So usually, almost all the maps we'll look at in here are thematic maps, right? They're telling us information. They're trying to convey information. So where are the differences in how they're trying to convey information? At what level? So a good thing to write down or to repeat yourself when you're trying to figure out what the scale of analysis of a map is the purpose of this map is to analyze. That should be analyze, not analysis. The purpose of this map is to analyze blank at the blank level. So if you're looking at a map of panda bears, and it is showing you in the entire region, you could say the purpose of this map is to analyze panda bears at the regional level, right? You got a bunch of countries. You want to see how many pandas are in each. So that is the purpose of that map, right? I don't know if such a map actually exists, but if it does, we'll find it and we'll look at it someday. Okay, so scales of analysis include global. So again, the entire world. So that would just be one. If it's like a chloropleth map, that would just be like one color, where the entire world, counting up the entire world of how many things exist. So that probably doesn't exist as much. Regional, national, subnational, and local. So again, we'll see how these terms change as we apply them to scale of analysis. So looking at this map, percentage of countries' population living in urban areas. We have differences in the data occurring at the national level, right? So every country has its own data sort of synthesized, and then it spits out a color. And then on the map, you can see which color a country is, right? So Japan is a highly urbanized country where we see it is close to 100%. Whereas the country of Chad here is much less urban. So you see kind of closer to probably around 20, 30%. So you can see differences at the national level. So we would say the purpose of this map is to analyze the percentage of a country's population living in urban areas at the national level. Right? All right. Bottom right-hand corner, some sort of sales that are happening by territory. Sales of what? I do not know. But the information is aggregated or collected at the regional level. So the scale of analysis for this one is regional. The purpose of this map is to analyze the sales by territory at the regional level. All right, a few more. So U.S. population density. We have population density by state, by U.S. state. So the way I would say this is the scale of analysis is at the sub-national level, meaning it's below the national level. I would avoid using the term state for reasons that I will explain to you, but are complicated and that we'll talk about later in the year. So you could say the purpose of this map is to analyze U.S. population density at the subnational level. All right, and the last one, total religious adherence by county. So it actually tells us kind of the scale of information in the title, which is nice. So the purpose of this map is to analyze total religious adherence at the county scale. Or if you wanted to, you could use the term local scale. Notice it's actually not, you wouldn't say metropolitan because we're not analyzing it by city, we're actually analyzing it by county. So this is a chloropleth map that gives us kind of this scale of analysis by county. So notice in certain maps, the scale and the scale of analysis can be different. So in particular, this map, we have the scale being at the national level, showing the entire United States, and the scale of analysis being at the county level or being at the local level, showing us information or differences in data by county. All right, so hope that wasn't too much. See you later.